We're here at Rivercrest Country Club, Pete Chambers and myself, Byron Gossett, September the 12th, and we just finished up a Leader Exchange luncheon here. Pete was the featured speaker, and I had the privilege of asking him a few questions in an interview format, so we'll probably go back in that same direction. Pete, you had such a fascinating contribution and presentation to give everyone, so maybe just start where we started a while ago. Just tell us about growing up in Fort Worth and kind of who you were then.
Yep.
Things that impacted you as a young man.
Yeah. Well, Byron, thanks for having me, and love what the leadership group here, Exchange Group's doing. And it's just a great message and just one that fits right with my soul. So it's good to be here. Yeah. I'm a Fort Worth guy. I'm 56 years old. I'm married to a woman that happened to be from Fort Worth, and thank God she didn't know me in high school, but the good Lord brought us together after I graduated college. And Rainey and I have been married 30 years. We have 3 daughters, all raised here, All Saints and Country Day, and now we have a granddaughter. So Fort Worth is home, and we just love it. But this is my home, and the journey is one that I'm so thankful for. My parents lived here in Fort Worth, and I grew up, went to Country Day school, and then went to TCU on a golf scholarship, and ended up my whole career here as far as business goes, except for a short departure to New York and California. But I love Cowtown, and it's been really good to me. But with any real story, while we were a Christian family and seemingly had everything going, my dad was growing a business, and my mom was beautiful, and she was a Bible study fellowship teacher, and my sisters were beautiful, and we'd flow into the Bible church, Christ Chapel, and look all like perfect. And we weren't. And just like we're not perfect in my core family today. And that's what every man and every woman is flawed. And that's where God comes in and helps you figure it out over time. And, I had a great childhood, but I was confused as a believer, trying to, be taught to do the right things, which my parents did. I found myself doing the wrong things more and enjoying it, and was pretty good at it. And school was tough, for those of you that send your kids to private school here in Fort Worth, that's all good and well. But, I just was struggling academically, and academics were not really a part of our family values. Unfortunately, my parents said, "Oh, honey, it'll be okay. They don't know how to run a company, or they'd be running one. You're going to run a company," and that was just, my parents were business people. And, but that didn't help me going back to the classroom. So I was not great at school. Which being in Country Day, that was brought a lot of pain. And between that and having a low self-esteem, being kind of the dumbest kid in the class, caused me to really search and look for my identity in the wrong areas, and found myself doing a good job of that in the wrong areas. So it wasn't perfect by any means.
Well, it's so interesting to picture that, because you're in so many ways a picture of success now in every facet of life. And so I was amused when you said earlier to the group that you were last in your class. So I guess that means after graduation, you got to turn the lights out. Is that right? You were the last one out of the building.
It was not a fun place to be. Yeah. I was in the caboose.
Yeah. So, but interesting enough, that self-esteem that you mentioned, or lack of self-esteem or damaged self-esteem, probably tied in some ways to the way you were made to feel, even by your teachers. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. No, my parents loved me. I had friends. I was a good athlete. But to feel dumb and to kind of be told that often on your report card and by your teachers, and some giggles by, hardcore teachers that are not in the business of nurturing at that time. That's the way it worked. It was the bar is here, and you get up there or you shouldn't be here. And I probably shouldn't have been there, to be honest with you, but I made it through, but I was beat up and felt very dumb and was very insecure in the classroom.
It's a great irony to me, Pete, that fast forward many years now, that you and Rainey, your wife, are so involved with an organization here in Fort Worth called River Tree Academy.
Yeah.
Most people probably listening to this would know something about River Tree, but it's in an African American community here in Fort Worth. would be considered challenged socioeconomically speaking. And yet that's where you've planted your flag, you and Rainey, and in many ways you're helping countless young people also with the threat of low self-esteem.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like pain to shape us, right? And
nothing like pain to shape us. And, wow, it feels pretty cool to actually be liked at a school and to actually feel like I belong and impacted. And yet I'm not doing anything for the classroom, but I'm helping them in the way that I can help, which was happened to be basically help them run an organization that has a lot of donors' money and has a very hard task in education in an environment like that. But they're a team of 20 people, just like I was a team in my business. And I just love helping their leadership be successful. And so it's kind of interesting that my kingdom effort is in academics, which is where I'm the weakest. But you know what? That's how God works.
Exactly how it seems to work. So knowing a little, quite a bit now about your business, the trajectory of your business is worth sharing with this audience. So you started out buying a company. One of the main criteria that you used to buy the company was that it wasn't any more than 10 miles from your house because you were already committed to being home as a dad at dinner.
Yeah.
And I think we want to unpack that a little more as we talk about it. But you bought a business that was really in the jewelry manufacturing business.
Correct.
That sort of specialized in employee recognitions, literally the old gold watch theory.
That's right.
You bought it, A, because it was available, but B, because it was logistically well placed. But you didn't use family money, right? How did you do that?
Well, the seller was the main financer. And I had a little bit of money from my grandfather. His insurance policy paid out some of his grandkids. And again, that was every dollar of that went on the down. That was the only down payment that went down on that deal. And again, I had signatures on notes from family. So it wasn't without family, but it was not just here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was all to be paid back, and that's what happened. So it was between the banks and people I owed money to. I was scared to death again of failing, and that really what was driving me. And the identity thing that Jeff talks a lot about. I really wondered, am I always just going to be Tom's son?
Yes.
He's a powerful guy and he's my idol and best friend and guy that I think is the guy I would want to be running my company. But everybody, I walk around and everybody's like, oh, that's Tom's son. Well, that just didn't fit well with me because I had heard of so many stories of sons under strong men not turning out to be anything. And did they just ride his coattails? And he had big coattails. And so it was a battle for me, both entrepreneurially, financially, but also really identity wise. And I'm not sure, I would say the identity thing drove me most. The money came with success, but it was really as much, hey, I can do it too. And I wanted my dad to be proud of me.
Sure.
And
we all do.
And I think that fortunately happened.
Well, as you told the story, and I've heard it a couple of times now, because you and I are friends, your dad kind of nudged you out of the nest. You, for one reason that you bought a company is because you wanted to kind of make your own mark. Another reason was he was saying, I don't think you're fit here in our family organization.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah. He was, again, the last thing he ever wanted to do was spoil me. I mean, my dad was tough on me. And we sold the family business that I was working for, and we were setting up a successful successful looking investment office, which shows that you've done something, and walking downtown and looking all sharp and dressed. And I think he was as scared about me getting a free ticket and the harm that would do to me as anything. So I admire him for doing what didn't feel good at the time, which was basically, hey, this coming downtown looking successful isn't, it's for the birds. Why don't you go out and run a company? Because that's what I raised you to do. And he did. He raised me my whole life which I'm thankful for, because I've been in business my whole life because of him. And I bought a company when I was 28 years old. I walked in and had 45 employees that were all older than me. And how in the world are you going to lead those people? Well, I had been trained.
Yeah. As it went, you grew the company, you began to have some successes, you began to get a little bit of foothold financially. Mm-hmm. And then we always had an eye toward, you said it well today, an entrepreneur is always thinking about selling, because that's when the payday comes for an entrepreneur, really. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so even though you weren't looking for a buyer, you were thinking like a seller in terms of create the right environment, create the right financial structure and reporting, create the right leadership. And I think you told us earlier that you actually looked at yourself and you said, I wouldn't be the best CEO for someone to buy the company and to inherit. So you fired yourself. Yeah. That's a fascinating thought to me. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. There were multiple reasons for that, but I had been inspired by the story of I had enough, meaning God had blessed the company enough that I was living as good as I needed to live. Mm-hmm. And a question that some might ask, if the Lord leads them that way or some mentor leads them that way, is what would you do if you had more time to help other people? Right. And rather than just helping yourself. Mm-hmm. And so there was that driving it. And then two, the company was transitioning. I mean, you take a jewelry company and turn it into a software company, you can, over 20 years, that it still was a rapid pace of transition. Right. There was a time when the company really was going into more of the enterprise HR world in corporate America and globally. And for me to feel like I was doing something for the kingdom and staying true to my values with my wife and the commitment to her and the commitment to being a great father. And then also by talking to people of how to build a company of value, a key man factor, which is scary to say I was a key man, but I was. And I figured out the business really well and I was a key man. And, that can be a problem, a discount to the company, because if someone were to pay me for the company, I would be rich and they would worry I'd run off. That's what you think about when you buy a company. Yeah. And so I just said, well, I think this is a good timing for me to start working on that so that I can do more in the community of Fort Worth in the kingdom, but also give someone an opportunity to run a company. And of course, I'll be there serving him in any way he wants, mm-hmm. but I'm going to help him grow my company. And that's what happened.
A couple of tools you've used along with mentors, which we'll talk about shortly, but you had created for yourself a mission statement, a life mission statement, yep. And you also created a business plan, kind of Pete's business plan, mm-hmm. documents that subject to review. I mean, although I don't suppose you ever changed your mission statement, did you?
I don't now, but when I was 30, when I started this 20 years ago, I wasn't serving high capacity leaders in thriving organizations, which is my mission today. Mm-hmm. It has changed mm-hmm. because back then I wasn't in the mindset that I could help a leader. I was trying to be a leader. And so back then it was more, what kind of CEO do I want to be? Mm-hmm. And what do I want my legacy to be? Mm-hmm. Today, it is now helping others do what I was fortunate enough to do.
Yeah. Well,
and that is called my roadmap. Yes. It's a one-page document. Yeah. I've had it for 20 years. I rework it every year. I have 3 mentors look over it every year and challenge me on mm-hmm. it and ask me how I'm doing and am I really doing what I'm putting on paper, and I change it every year. Fewer changes as I get older, as far as who I am and what my perfect life metrics are at the end of the game and how I want to go to my coffin. Those things are not changing as much anymore, but I'm becoming I'm a grandfather now. Mm-hmm. How do I want to love my granddaughter? Mm-hmm. What does it look like to relate to her and to relate to my daughters that are now mothers and career women, and how do you influence? Unsolicited advice to your adult children is criticism, and exactly. So it's still a thing to be strategic about, as to how to love and help your children be successful. So they're high capacity leaders too.
The scripture talks about where there is no vision, the people perish. Mm. And so your plan that you just described really is a vision plan.
Yeah.
where do I want to go, with a few parts about how I get there, but mostly where I want to go. So for all those out there listening who are listening to this and say, you know what did Pete do? What are the key things he did to sort of achieve what he achieved? And I would say what I've heard from your story, it's two things. It's having that plan, and maybe even more important, having accountability to advisors, to mentors. You've mentioned mentors every time we've talked, going all the way back to even to before you were seeking advice, even as a young man. How does someone go about finding and trusting and cultivating a mentor, in your opinion?
Yeah. I think first you look for people that you admire and that are successful, and in the area or the path that you're thinking God might be calling you to, or that you're involved with. Find that person, and then and these are my words, but I had to stalk them.
Okay.
And I was selling them on helping me as much as anything else. And so you find someone, and then you make it easy. First of all, hopefully you're being someone that they want to help. You know, every man of older age would love to tell a young man what he's done and how he did it. There are so many men that are wishing that would happen. Well, back to my schooling days, being insecure, I was like, someone said, well, just go ask the teacher. Well, I've been asking the teacher from then on. Why not ask the teacher?
Right.
And then shame on you if you can't, and it's never the perfect answer from a mentor, but get multiple answers to the test and then put it in action, and then God be the glory, and God's going to make figure out how that's going to work out. But he calls us to plan, and he calls us to seek counsel and wisdom, and then the victory is his. And it sometimes doesn't look exactly like it does on your piece of paper, but I've been doing it for 20 years on that piece of paper, and it's amazing how close it is.
Mentors, if a mentor relationship really grows, it's not long before there's a level of accountability.
Yeah.
When you ask for instance, a mentor even now, or an advisor even now, hey, take a look at this year's revisions to my pathway plan, and they say, I think you're maybe missing it here, you have to listen to them.
And it's
because they're going to ask you again.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel good to have constructive criticism at my age. Well, dadgum, I don't need to be doing this, but that's the part of hopefully knowing that if you lose your life and you humble yourself, which I'm not perfect at, you gain it. And that's the good scripture's promise. And I've just benefited so greatly from listening to men like you and putting it in here and talking to my wife about it, and then executing on it. And it's paid off for me.
So, we could go on. In fact, there are other podcasts that you've participated in that last over an hour I've listened to. And I never get tired of hearing Pete Chambers and what he thinks and what he's experienced. We're going to be a little limited to time here, but I want to kind of circle back to, you've alluded to it several times, and actually Leader Exchange alludes to it all the time. What is at your core? And the whole ministry really of Leader Exchange is to ask that question and help people answer it. So simply put, articulate what your core is.
Yeah. Well, at the core is I'm in love with the God that sent his son down to die for my sins. And I am in the prodigal son. I'm the older brother. I've had everything. I have been raised in a wonderful town by wonderful people and been given every thing you could ask for to be successful. And I was still sad and depressed and suicidal. But one day I really met my Father in heaven, and he loved me, and he could love me better than my earthly father, who loves me a lot. But it changed my life. And at the core of that, he said, I don't want you to be somebody else than who you are. I mean, all those things that you've been taught by great people and your father, I want you to do it for me. then so at the center of the dial, I know that one day I'm going to die. There's 100% chance I'm going to die. And he's going to ask me how I did with what he gave me. First of all, how did I do with his son? Did I believe that or not? And I've checked that box. I'm all in on it. He's just been the best thing that ever happened to me. He's, through all of the sin that I've had, he's given me a wife and a partner and a companion that has, I can't put it into words. And from there, all good things have flown.
Yeah. You finished up today with a very poignant moment here in the Leader Exchange on September 12th. You had a picture that the man painted for you, actually in your presence, right? He painted it while you were sitting here watching him. Talk about that picture as we close.
The picture is a view that you might not know what it is, but it's basically coming out of your eyeballs, and it's you laying in the coffin, but you don't see you. You just see that's the view of that, and there's the walls of the coffin on each side, and there's people throwing roses down, and there's a blue sky and a bright light up there, and there was a man talking next to that artist, and the artist was purely drawing what he was coming to him as this man talked about, and he was talking about the scripture that says, God's asking us when we get to the pearly gates, what'd you do with what I gave you? What'd you do with my son? And so this view in the coffin is, first of all, and it says down at the bottom of the coffin, what'd you do with what I gave you? And it hit me so hard because, again, he talks about, 20x, 100x multiplier. Well, I've been given a lot, and how am I going to multiply that? But did I even try to multiply it for the right reasons? And that's what really hit me. Well, what did I do with what he gave me? What did I do with the skills, the knowledge, and the financial blessings that he gave me? What did I do with this beautiful wife and beautiful daughters? Did I squander that? Did I take advantage of that? Did I serve it and nourish it and help shape a great life for them? And so that, there's a person throwing a rose down, and it's a female, and the talk was, what is your wife saying to you when you're laying in that coffin and she's throwing that rose on you? And it scared me to death, because I know a lot of men's wives, because I've sought a lot of counsel from men that are struggling, and I think their wives may be calling them a curse word, and then there's kids that are saying, you left my mother, you didn't love me, you weren't at my games, you weren't whatever, and then there's friends that said so and so. What are they saying as they throw that rose down? And that, from that day on, which was advice given to me, is I wrote down what I'd like those people to be saying and what God would be saying, and what I did with my life. And that was the beginning of my life plan. So I recommend to people that you start at the end, because a preacher, all these people that work with people in the last hours of their life, that's what they're talking about, is those things. They're not talking about how great their company was, or how much money they made. They're talking about who's there loving them, and what kind of relationships did they have. And so I start at the end, and that painting, that artist, I wasn't the only guy in the room, but I was just kind of broken up, and that guy came up and gave me that piece of plywood that painting is on, and I carried it around with me every once in a while.
You shared it with everybody today?
I shared it today, because that's at the end of the day, you're going to lie in a coffin, and we all got to answer some serious questions, and I think now's a good time to do it.
I have a bonus question that I thought of as you were saying that, Pete. We talked about all the blessings that you've had, and there are many.
Yep.
What would you say about the blessing of hard times?
Yeah. Again, I'm so thankful for them, but I didn't like them. And at times I felt like God or my dad wasn't treating me right. And I wasn't understood, or wasn't rewarded, or just that that was God's way of beating me down to keep me humble, because I know He wanted me to be humble. And And I don't know what the right answer is. However, I look back on them all now, and there was a better story at the end of those hard times. There was a better life, a better outcome. I was a better man because of those hard times. And I think that's what's so hard as a parent is how do you keep from robbing your kids from hard times when you can heal it and fix it like that because of your success or your network or your whatever. And that's a question we all need to take really good hard times to think about, because you could be robbing a reason why they would need God and enter into a stage of life where they know that they can't do it by themselves. And I'm just so thankful that I've figured out that I can't do it by myself.
So essential. There's a book titled A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. When I think about the title of that book, I think about Pete Chambers. He's had a long obedience you have in the same direction toward that glorious day.
Yeah.
But I would think, and you would probably want to say, don't look at Pete Chambers and look at all the stuff he's got or all the things, how easy it must be. Because easy is not the goal. If easy were the goal, we weren't going to get it, because it's not easy for anybody. So what I think I'm kind of summarizing what you said, celebrate the hard times.
The art of great positioning is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if you are working towards a plan and a mission, there's going to be some things you got to sacrifice, and they're worth it if you believe in where you're going. But otherwise, you'll quit and go a different direction. That's easier on yourself. It's just the way we are. We're human nature.
Yeah. Well, Pete, this has been a great treat to, I don't know how many people were here today at Leader Exchange, but everyone was spellbound as you talked and told about your story. I say keep up the good work. I'm glad we're friends. We became friends about 14 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad we're friends today, because I like to ride with winners.
Oh, Byron, thank you. It's been good to be with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.